If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell Brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Good morning, San Diego. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers. My name is Mark Powell. I'm a real estate broker here in San Diego. I'd like to introduce my brother over here, Frank Powell. Say hello, Frank.
Hello, Frank. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our show. And I would like to introduce our co-host, Maria Herman, the producer of Comedy Heights. Good morning.
Good morning, Powell Brothers.
Good morning, Maria. How are you?
I'm really well. You know, every week when you say, and I'm going to introduce my brother, I'm never sure if another brother is going to show up. If you have another brother from another mother or something. I mean,
there's a lot of brothers.
We do, and we actually do have another brother, Benjamin Powell.
Yeah, Benjamin Powell. He's the one who's behind the scenes.
He's the tech guy. Right? He's the tech guy.
We give him no airtime.
Yes.
Okay, poor Benjamin.
But we love him.
Hey, Maria, this week we're going to talk about buying a foreclosure and how that all works. But I also know we have a special guest.
Yeah, because he's sitting right by you.
I'm right here. I'm right here.
Oh, there he is.
Next to you.
A minute and a half of acting like I don't exist. All right.
That
He's
cloaking device.
Absolutely the cleanest guy in the whole radio station right now. The very funny James Schrader, everybody.
Yay! Welcome.
Once again, James is here.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Hey, thanks for coming in, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
James, today we're going to talk about foreclosures, which in some cases it's very sad. If a person's being foreclosed upon, it causes a lot of stress in their life. It's not a happy time. We don't really want to talk about that aspect of it.
Well, can we talk about one? Like, at what point are you like how many payments do you have to miss before they're like, you're done?
It depends.
Oh, okay. So there's no easy answer.
Yeah, there's no easy answer for that.
Remember, when you buy a home, it's the collateral for your loan. So it really is the process where the lien holder that holds the title and holds your property is not getting paid and they want the collateral back. So they're going to ask you, and they do it in a whole bunch of different notices. They'll send you a letter that's saying, hey, we realize you didn't pay this month. Please pay your bill. And then they can post something in the newspaper after a couple months. So there's a whole process where they try to make sure that whoever owns that house is getting the word that they are behind in their payments. Mm-hmm. And nothing really starts to happen bad until you miss about 3 payments, which is 90 days.
And after 90 days, you get something called a notice of default.
Right, but during COVID, things have been a little different, right?
That's correct.
Yes, during COVID, and remember, we're in San Diego. There's 50 states, and every state handles, every city handles things different with the COVID. So you really have to do your own research. We're not going to give advice about the COVID because it's so different, and it changes as we see, even with the schools opening up, what's going on, the stimulus checks. So we don't really talk about the COVID part. But in general, it's the notice of default is in 90 days, and that's when the proceedings start to go bad, where they're trying to get you to either read your loan, talk to you, get somebody on the phone.
But there's been
so really, pretty much like if you own a house and you're making a mortgage payment and things get tough, if you know in your head, like, I haven't paid for 2 months, you should reach out to your lender and be like, help me.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And before, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. They would not talk to you before. The banks would just not even deal with you. But after 2008, 2009, the banks are more apt to talk to people now because they realized the collapse meant that many banks had to close because they had more liability than assets. So the government shut down hundreds of banks. So now the banks got the attention of the homeowner. So if you want to redo your loan or talk about your loan, you will get somebody on the phone. So try that.
So listen, here's what I'm hearing. If you're lonely, you listen. people are lonely out there. I think it's good to know that you could call any bank right now and get an actual live person on the other side of the phone. This
Like a
is
chat
great
line.
news.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. No, I don't want to talk about my payment, but how are you doing?
Exactly. I need to speak to a human.
So as far as foreclosures go, and I just want to run this by James, Marie, and Frank. As far as foreclosures go, there is a moratorium, which means a hold or a freeze on anybody being foreclosed upon until June of this year. But after June of this year, the banks are going to start to look at people and say, hey, what are we going to do? And then to answer James' question, how much longer can you stay in your house after you haven't made a payment, let's say for 8 months?
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
I mean, I remember in 2008, I knew when I was living in Florida, and I knew a guy that lived rent and mortgage free for over a year because it was just such a mess.
Yes.
And then he lost his house. I mean, or actually, no, they actually worked with him again.
Yeah.
And he stayed in.
Oh, yeah. We know people. Okay, so here's the first part of the foreclosure process. Is to tell you what happens is if the bank is actually going to foreclose on a house, and we'll talk about how to buy a foreclosure in a minute, they'll send some people to the house to talk to the occupants, because it could be renters, it could be an owner, and they'll say, look, what are your plans? And we want to typically offer you something called cash for keys. And Frank's going to explain what cash for keys is.
Well, obviously, people don't have the money to pay for their mortgage. They're not going to have the money to move out to get another place. So they're going to sit there and go, I'm not going to be homeless. I'd rather, take a hit from you guys. So what we do, we represent the banks, and we go there and we say, listen, we understand this. So we're going to give you a lot of cash, and you give us the keys, which means if you can get this house up to speed and broom swept condition and ready to go, we'll give you 10 grand in a month. So typically.
Okay, wait. Does it have to be the keys to the house, or could it be just any keys?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I've got a lot of keys. I don't know what they do.
Maybe that's why we haven't been able to
Exactly.
open the doors.
I
want to know
this
what
is
broom
all
swept is.
Great information. Oh,
What, James,
swept?
what's broom swept to you? What you think? Like if it's a
That means everything is out to the point, and then you just took a broom. You didn't even vacuum. You didn't have to plug anything in because the power's been out. You haven't paid your power bill in a while
That's
too.
so true.
But you had a broom, hopefully, and you just swept everything into one corner. Whether you picked it up, I don't know,
Yes.
but everything's in a corner.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty
think
much.
I think broom swept is there used to be a witch in there.
That's right.
They,
Well-
when they say broom swept, what they mean is it doesn't have to be immaculate. You don't have to hire a cleaning service. But I'll tell you what, we've been to homes where the people are so upset they've been foreclosed upon that they do damage. And here's the kind of stuff they'll do. And they'll pour concrete in the toilet and flush it multiple times so the concrete hardens in the toilet. They will drop tennis balls down the air vents so you can't flush the toilets anymore because you don't have the air restriction. And you're like, how come the toilets aren't flushing?
If you're a human and you're considering that, like, you're better than that. Just like, yes, it's a horrible situation, but
Exactly.
10 years later, you're going to be like, I was a bad person. Like,
It's
you're not, like, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, you remember that time when I was having a real rough time and I took it out on people that had nothing to do with it? Like, it's like.
Well, you have to remember back in the day, whoever foreclosed on their house was looked down upon. But it's almost like the AA, where it used to be Alcoholics Anonymous. But now when people go to AA, they go, hey, I'm going to my meeting, and everyone accepts it and it's fine. So many people foreclosed that it began to be like no big deal because your friend, your relatives were all foreclosing. But at the beginning, it was like that. But after a while, it's like, listen, just give your house up. And the reason why they allowed people to stay for a year or two, because the banks figured out it cost them less to have the owner stay in the house as opposed to hiring someone to manage the property and have it being invaded by squatters.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
If there are so many foreclosures possibly going to happen after this moratorium is lifted, do we need something like a support group, like an FA, a Foreclosures Anonymous? I mean, do we
Need something.
is there a step program that includes a broom? This is what we'd like to know.
Just add a 13 step instead of the 12 step.
So here's the actual steps. Speaking of steps, let me explain to you what happens. So when a home is actually foreclosed and everybody leaves, what happens is they look at the bank or the mortgage company and they say, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to you want to just to sell it? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to use it as an investment? The bank typically says no. Sell it on the courthouse steps. And literally on the courthouse steps, like you're on the steps of the courthouse, there's a guy out there, a trustee, who will say, we have a property for sale. We're going to start with $200,000. We have a penny over. Anybody want to bid? Penny over. It says bidding starts at $200,000. And in order to buy this house at the courthouse steps, you have to have cash. That means you can have
Cashier's checks.
a bunch of cashier's checks. You can have actual cash. Because if you win that property at $250,000, you got to give the guy $250,000
Right
and
there.
then go in and register and get a deed on it. But you get everything that comes with the house: mechanics liens, IRS liens,
Correct.
occupants,
Broken pipes,
broken pipes.
fire in the kitchen.
So it's
Whatever.
pure as is.
It's
it has this. So
it's really as is. So, but if the bank cannot sell it at the auction, they go, well, nobody bid high enough. We had our margins. Then it becomes real estate owned by the bank, and that's where you get the term REO, real estate owned by the bank. And then they hire an agent in wherever city that it is to market the property and sell it as a house. So
And
that's what a foreclosure.
when they hire an agent, and Mark and I are those agents, you have to do what's called a BPO. Explain what a BPO is, Mark.
A BPO is a broker price opinion, which is an opinion of value. It's similar to an appraisal report, but it cannot be used for lending purposes. So you tell the bank, I think the house is worth this much, and hopefully you're accurate because that's what the market will bear, and you list it for sale. That's how it works.
I've got to backtrack a little bit here because I still have visions of people with huge amounts of cash standing outside the courthouse amongst a lot of other people who are all wearing masks. This doesn't seem
That's
like
true.
a really good situation.
You would be surprised, Maria, that the people out there that have all the cash,
Up to $1 million.
they look like
They dress down on
they look like
purpose.
skateboarders. They have a
Yeah.
backpack, but they're on the telephone with somebody
Right.
telling them what to do.
And also, they have a crew out there. So their crew will go to the properties that are going. They'll look through the windows. They'll do a walkthrough. So there's a team of people. And that's why it's hard for the average person to go and buy a bank-owned foreclosure on the steps of the court, because these guys work in teams. And they work for what's called asset managers. So what happens is that the banks don't take over the asset. They don't. They just lend money. So the banks hire a company. They're called asset managers.
No, they're called asset management companies.
Asset management companies, and they manage the assets. So the asset manager companies are the ones who hire the people for the BPOs, and they buy them. So it's a complicated thing, but is it worth buying a foreclosure, Mark? Because that's what we're here for.
Yes, you can get these crazy deals. You know, back in 2008, homes were selling for $150,000. I mean, I'm
40% lower
I'm
than
talking about homes, real homes, $150,000, $200,000. The same homes today are selling for $700,000 and $800,000.
right.
Wow. Now,
So-
are these
But
the
does it-
same properties where, because I just saw a thing that like San Diego just released like 714 properties and like, because I wasn't sure if they were foreclosed or they were like back taxes. Is that different?
Okay, there's different types of foreclosures. So some are foreclosed because they haven't paid their property taxes. So the government forecloses on the house because you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to get foreclosed upon. So you can be foreclosed upon by the mortgage company,
Right.
or you can be foreclosed upon by the government.
Correct.
Okay.
Many ways to lose your home. One of them, the typical one, is you're not paying your mortgage. The other one is the taxes.
The best way to save your home, pay your bills.
That's the
Right.
great.
Yeah,
That's the one. That's
But here's the thing.
And that's
I
why.
don't.
Go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm so silly. I'm just thinking, what's worse, getting foreclosed on by the bank or being unfriended on Facebook? I mean, I think there should be a moratorium till June on all of those things, and I think things will just work out a lot better.
Time will handle
by
it.
then. Yeah.
Well, the thing.
And then you get away in your REO Speedwagon, and
That's.
Oh my
the-
God.
It's the thing
know.
about foreclosures, though, is that sometimes neighborhoods are destabilized, and I'll give you an example. People will come together with a lot of money. Investors will come with millions, $2, $3, $4, $5 million portfolios, and start to buy up all the foreclosed properties in one neighborhood, and then they turn all of those into rentals. and then that kind of takes away from the pride of ownership. Because they're kind of just like rental properties.
That's another reason why the guy in the lower end gets screwed at the end, because you got a person that has a bunch of people throwing in money, and they go right to the asset managers and they go, instead of going on the courtroom steps, I'll take all 10 of these. One may be a bust. One may be so bad no one wants it anyway. So they sell them what's called bundles. So they buy all these bundles, and whatever's remaining goes on the courtroom steps. So they're really not the best of the best foreclosures. So as a person that doesn't know the process, you got to be really well educated. It's like the person that buys a house and thinks they're going to rent it, and they don't know how to change a toilet or a light bulb, and it's more difficult than it looks. So just buying a foreclosure is a process that you have to be well educated on.
If anybody wants to know about that process, whether you're a realtor or a end user, you can always call the Powell Brothers at 858-922-7725. 858-922-7725.
So
correct?
if somebody, let's say somebody has a pile of cash, they could call you guys, and you guys will be like, hey, like, do you guys actually have properties? You're like, we know that these are foreclosures coming up. We can kind of walk you through the process and take like, okay, you have some money. These are your options that you could probably afford.
Yes.
And we can handle that for you. And
that's what we do. Yeah. We can,
and we'll guide them.
We'll guide them through the process.
Obviously, if it's another agent wanting to make his own money, we'll still give him free advice because we work well with other agents. We just want this process to keep going. Going smooth.
Now, the sad thing about foreclosures back in 2008 were due to the meltdown of the institutions in Wall Street. They put good loans with bad loans.
The banks did it to themselves.
They did. The banks did it it was a bank thing. This is very different. This is sad. COVID affected people in a way where people lost their jobs.
Right. Well, the government actually made it happen. They
shut down jobs. Like you can't eat at a restaurant, but you can go to Home Depot.
People will argue. People
so
argue it's for a good cause because you're saving lives. So you'd rather be alive than to pay your mortgage, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a reason why they did it, and you can go back and forth whether it was a good thing or a bad thing or whatever. But guess what? It was a thing. And it happened.
And it's going to have an impact.
And it has an impact.
We're here now.
And we're here now. So what are we going to do to change this? So if a person is in a situation where they have not made a mortgage payment, don't ignore those letters.
Correct.
You gotta answer the letters. You gotta talk to the bank. There's people that can help you.
The bank would rather have you start paying something. They'd
course.
rather work it out.
Right.
It's like bad credit. If you're going to, or even taxes, you can call people that you pay a little bit of your taxes. Even pennies on the dollar is better than completely being ignored.
So, and then also be extremely careful if you are the end user, because there was a lot of scammers out there with the foreclosures.
Many scammers. Yeah, they would go and they put a house for sale, and that house wouldn't even be for sale. And then they get 10 grand from a person to make sure that they get it, and then they leave. And people are sitting there going.
So somebody will list a house for sale. It's not even their house, and they'll go, I'll sell it to you, but I'll hold it for you. Send me $1,000, and it's your house. Show up there I'll meet you on Saturday, and all of a sudden 50 people show up at the house on Saturday.
Yeah, that guy walks away with
and
50
they're like,
grand.
"Where's the guy?"
Some guy that lives there is like, "What is that?"
The guy doesn't probably live in the country. He's got all this money. So and believe me, just when you think you thought of every single scam that can go on, another one will pop up.
There's smart ones. For every crisis, there's a whole bunch of scammers out there. So make sure
you got to be careful.
You got legit people.
Right, and they're not all from Ethiopia, apparently. Yeah.
But they're princes. That's the weirdest part. They're princes and princesses.
I'm a prince.
Yeah,
I got that. Before too. All sorts of people.
So if you need help, or you want advice on how to maneuver this process, like I said, you can give us a call. Go on powellbrothersrealty.com. We have a whole section that's in our website devoted to foreclosures and how to handle that.
Usually with this one, our show is what can go really right or what could go really wrong. Typically, things go really wrong with this. So you definitely want some backup.
Okay, but now there's something else. James, have you ever heard of a short sale?
I have heard of it. I couldn't define it, but I've heard of it.
Frank's define it?
Yeah, of course. Well, basically...
That's just from like here to
the
Coronados, right? That's just you're only packing half a cooler, right? You're home by 2.
Yeah,
right?
it's a short sale.
Got it. Okay.
We're not going that far.
Right.
Stay dry.
Yeah, not Catalina.
No.
No. Just
put your
Coronados.
sunscreen on. Yeah, it's a short sale.
Gotcha. Okay.
Typically, if you want to pay back a loan, let's say you owe the guy $200, and $200,000, and let's say you can do a loan for $150,000, you're going to be short $50,000. Okay, so what they did is the government would subsidize that $50,000 back in 2008, 2009. So the government would give the banks that money. So what would happen is that the banks were able to sell it for $150,000 and be subsidized by the government to $50,000. So it's a short sale. You're not up to $200,000. You're short by $50,000.
Well, that was the bailout.
That was the
Yeah.
bailed out.
But that's what a short sale.
But do you think something like that is going to happen now? I mean, now properties, the price of properties has skyrocketed, right? I
Well,
mean,
the reason, that's a good
you would
thing.
think.
No, the good thing
Right.
is, yeah. So they don't have to short sell.
Yeah, may or may
Right,
not. You know,
exactly.
You could sell your property and walk out, even if you owe 3-4 months behind, and still walk out with $100,000 cash. So that's
Right.
why Mark says don't ignore those letters, because it's not always a bad thing. It's like, okay, I have to sell my house, but oh my God, if I sell it now, I've just made $200,000, paid everyone off,
right?
got cut up on the taxes,
Right.
the liens are gone, and I move and I get a condo or whatever, another state. You take that money.
Everybody's situation is
different.
right? You know,
Always.
and I find that a lot of the people that worked in the banks and stuff, they were very compassionate. You know, they want to help. They want to help.
Well,
Yeah.
because even the bankers are employees and they got short saled on too. Everyone got short sales. So now everyone knows the pain, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to get help with. Like there's you can't be upset with yourself that your restaurant closed down because they wouldn't allow you to open it. You can't be upset because you had a service-oriented job that you can't do it anymore.
That's correct.
So when you get those letters, or if you're behind, nip it in the bud and start the conversation, because you know it's going to come. So 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, just be prepared. Just go, hey, I don't got the money to pay this because my job is gone. So
Yeah, very, very nice people are on the other end of the phone waiting to have a long conversation about everything crap that's happened to you in this last year.
Yeah, exactly.
So start with that and then send them $5. So
Well, it's a long process. Foreclosures are something that is not the funnest thing to talk about real estate. However, for the people that are going to get foreclosed on or thinking, there's a tremendous amount of resources and a tremendous amount of people that do want to help, because everyone in the world is going through this COVID crisis. It's affecting everyone equally, one way, shape, form, or another.
Yeah, we all got to help each other.
Yeah,
So we'll help each other.
Let's help each other.
So speaking of help each other, James,
Yes.
if we wanted to find out where you're performing or get a hold of you, how do we do that?
The best place to find what I'm up to is you can go to my website, jamesschrader.com. I post show information, merchandise information. If you're seeing this, you can see my shirt. This is about to launch, my human shirt, because we're all in this together.
Nice.
jamesschrader.com finds all this stuff of, most recent commercials, projects I'm working on, shows I'm doing, where I'll be around the country.
James, do you want to
check it out.
pitch your soap? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're dirty, which most of you are,
We're
most
men.
most
we're
of you
dirty.
are.
Yeah.
Dr. Squatch soap is the first commercial I ever did, and it's doing great. We just had a Super Bowl ad, which was very exciting, and it's a really good product. I use it every day, all day.
And we use it. Powell Brothers use it too.
Powell Brothers
Yeah.
use
That's why
it.
we smell so good.
That's how we found this guy. We got clean, and then we realized
we're
this guy's
clean.
funny. He's an up-and-coming superstar.
We do
over
not
here.
smell like Bigfoot. We smell very
we smell
clean.
like the forest.
That's right.
that beautiful
I like the
spring
nut-
I like
I like
pine
the-
tar. I like the pine
nautical.
tar.
It's
Nautical,
the nautical sage.
Right,
Solid
nautical sage.
stuff.
Okay,
Maria, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, Comedy Heights.
at comedyheights.com. I will also be on the corner. I'm collecting. I have a big bag. I'm going to be collecting anything you can put in it. When I have a big bag of money, I'm going to come back to you, and then I will end up helping people pay off their mortgages, because that seems like a good thing to do.
You're very
too.
kind.
So
That's very
why
kind.
not?
That's
Hey,
going to
Yes,
be
do
needed.
that.
So thank you all for tuning in to our funny house with the Powell Brothers, and I'd like to thank our guest comedians. Next week we have another great show. We're on at
11 a.m.
with the Powell Brothers. So until you hear from us again, have an excellent week and an outstanding weekend. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.